Against the Ropes podcast.
Contra las cuerdas. Against the Ropes podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. AtR podcast. Gio Garcia here alongside Christian Mosqueda. Back in the building, back for another episode. Canelo weekend, Chris.
Hey, Canelo weekend, man. It's the part of the year that every fight fan, whether you're a true fight fan, whether you're a mainstream fan, everybody turns out to see Canelo.
All right. Hey, and look, they had a very good undercard as well. So we'll get into the undercard. I know there were rumors about the pay-per-view numbers and all that stuff. Whoa, the light just fell on me. Man, I'm getting knocked out here like Berlanga, Chris. Man, you didn't catch that, but
Go.
but no. Hey, let's get into the undercard, Chris, because the undercard, PBC doesn't typically put these undercards on. I would say, they got to pay the main man, especially if it's a guy like Canelo. But this one, you can say they stacked it at least on paper. I mean, let's go ahead and get into that undercard right here. You see the names. Rolly Romero, Chris, did you catch? Let's rewind, because actually Stephen Fulton was not even on the actual undercard. You can say he was on the prelims, Chris. He was on the free cards that you were able to watch on Amazon. I was surprised by that. Fulton, obviously, his last time out was defeated against Naoya Inoue. But he's still a name, man. He still has a name for himself. Still a former champion, one of the best at 122, now fighting at 126. Didn't make the main card, but he did earn a victory. He got dropped at the end, Chris.
Yeah, again, it was a very entertaining fight just to start off, Gio, and a lot of people, like we said, wanted to see, how he would respond after, his first defeat at the hands of the monster. So it was one of those fights where, like, you just had to tune in, and like you said, he got dropped, Gio. You almost thought that, oh, this is not gonna go his way. Again, a toe-to-toe match, back and forth. Both guys had their moments, razor thin, at the end of the day. But yeah, man, Stephen Fulton goes away with the victory, and I gotta say, Gio, I think he averted a near disaster, in my opinion.
Iceman says Fulton didn't deserve that win, in my opinion. And man, it almost looked like he was gonna get stopped. And yeah, that was gonna be a disaster, man, because you don't even make it to the main card, and you almost got stopped. But yeah, I mean, he's back On the winning column, you can say 126. Man, he's got to be more prepared than this if he wants to compete.
Yeah, again, one loss, everybody can take a loss, but if you start, stacking those, that's where you're like, that's those moments where you have your Burchell kind of moments where you kind of lose, that little X factor. So, he needs to be careful who he fights next. Again, it's you don't want to have those kinds of moments that can truly derail, what's been so far a pretty good career. So yeah, again, he walks away with the victory, but it's a major time for him right now.
Yeah, he fought Carlos Castro, who was 30-2, only 14 knockouts, but as we said, he was able to drop Fulton. And you see the scorecards there: 95, 94, 93, 96, 94, 95. So at the end of the day, split decision. Fulton gets the nod, and he earns his 22nd victory. Stephen Fulton. Castro 30 years old. Fulton 30 as well. We'll see where he can kind of get into the mix here. We talked about those champs at 126 last week. Angelo Leo, Rafael Espinosa, Ray Vargas, I believe, still champion at 126. So, I mean, it's a very competitive division. So we'll see where Fulton lands in all this. Don't want to spend too much time on this. We do got to move on. We got to talk about your boy who opened up the show, you can say, the pay-per-view card. Rolly, Rolee, Chris Rolly. Rolando Romero, 16-2 now, 13 KOs. Did not get the stoppage, but he did get a unanimous decision win. After that loss this year, earlier in March against Pitbull Cruz, he's back, defeats Manuel Jaimes.
Yeah, again, Rolly's, I've said it time and time again, he's good for boxing. Outside of that square circle, super entertaining, always has something to say. He's, he always makes us laugh. He's just always there to put on a show, but this performance was very lackluster. And again, just like Fulton, it was one of those where you want to keep an eye and see how they bounce back from their most recent defeat. And again, this one, if he would have lost, let's say he would have, been knocked out, this one would have been one of those fights where like, oh yeah, Broly's is done. But he edges out a victory. Very lackluster performance. Didn't impress, many people. Again, it's almost like he's losing a little bit of steam of what made him so exciting inside that ring. So again, Rose is good for boxing, front of the show, but very lackluster performance in my opinion.
Yeah, man, there wasn't much in it, man. I think boring would be the appropriate word, Chris. We can say it. As we said, Rolly, friend of the show, entertaining guy outside the ring, inside the ring. Didn't offer much entertainment. I think, obviously anytime Rolly fights, people want that KO. He talks about KOs all the time. When they asked him in the press conference before the fight, they said, Rolly's is back. What does that mean? He said, somebody's getting knocked out. That's what that means. But, it didn't deliver this time around. But, I mean, got the W at the end of the day. And we'll see where he takes it, man. We'll see where he takes it. And let's go ahead and move on, Chris. We're not going to spend too much time on this. As I said, boring fight, that opener. But I do want to shout out friend of the show as well, Lawrence King. Got that W, 17-1 now. Got a stoppage in the second round against Vaughn Williams. Lawrence King, who's very good friends with Canelo, was one of his main sparring partners when Canelo had that undisputed run at 168 when he defeated Callum Smith, Billy Joe, and Caleb Plant, of course. So shout out to him. Shout out to Lawrence King. And I mean, let's go ahead. Let's get Lara and Danny Garcia out the way, Chris. Let's just keep it real. I mean, we came out here, we predicted that Lara was going to win. Let me go ahead and show you guys the poll because a lot of people were actually rooting for Danny. They thought Danny was going to win. If you see the poll here, out of nearly 600 votes, 56% And that number was a lot higher the last time we checked it. But 56% said Garcia was going to win, only 44 Erislandy. Now, give me your thoughts on this. Danny Garcia, never been dropped in his career. Obviously, never been stopped. Got stopped this time around at middleweight against a 41-year-old Erislandy Lara.
Well, first of all, we were not shocked that that Lara won. We were not shocked that Danny took this W. But you and I predicted that it was going to be by decision. You know, I know we talked about, or at least I talked about this on the previous podcast, that Danny's last 4 or 5 years have been, you know, that it's been a career where that's not the way you want to finish your last 4 or 5 years. So this kind of just proves, you know, just how on the decline Danny has been, you know, at the tail end of his career. We know that, you know, COVID happened. We've heard about, you know, his struggles with depression and all that. But yeah, that just showed on this fight, Gio. He did not want to be there. Uh, this is the fight that I would say it was the boring fight. Again, it was two good name fighters that the boxing fans recognize. Of course, we know it's 5 years, 6 years too late, but I think a part of us always wants to say, you know what, these two guys will have one last great fight in them. You know, good fighters that people recognize throughout the years. You always say they have one left in them, and this was not the case. Like you said, Danny Garcia, you know, TKO, knocked out. Not something we predicted, not something we expected, but at the end of the day, not shocking the way he's been handling his career the last 5 and 6 years.
Shout out to our boy Jorge Rasso checking in. He has a question about Canelo. We'll get into Canelo, but right now we're talking the undercard, Lara versus Danny Garcia. If you guys are just tuning in, and let's go to some comments, man. We know Clyde not a big fan of your boy DSG. He said he's always been overrated. He took the Puerto Rican knee like Cotto, Clyde says. He said he lost like the chump he is. Going in, Clyde, man, swinging. That's something Danny didn't do. He didn't swing at all. He didn't throw any punches, Chris.
Yeah. Danny, I want to say, like, in his prime, he was that one guy that overachieved with like the limited skills that he had. You know, he was just one of those guys for most of his fights, I'm like, he's gonna fall short. He fell short to a bunch of those big A-listers, but there were some moments like that con fight where he surprised Gio and he overachieved. It's just been disappointing to not see that continue, you know, the last 5 years. So I can't defend Danny Boy on this one. So I's got a point, man.
All right, what else do we have here? Big Bro says, I knew Lara was too much, but wasn't expecting the overrated Danny to quit. I mean, Chris, can we feel confident in saying that Danny Garcia quit? He literally took a knee. Punch didn't look like much, ran into it, thought about it, took a knee. Lara kind of taunted him. Danny Garcia went back to the corner. I thought at first that it was an Angel Garcia decision, right? That he was just saving his fighter. But when they showed the replay, they showed Danny walking over. When that round was over, said something, and then that's when Angel stopped it. So not quite sure what he said, but it looks like he quit.
Yeah, first of all, I'm gonna say it blatantly. Yeah, he quit. Yeah, looking back first, when you first saw the fight, you saw Angel say something, and it seemed at first that it was the Angel that called the fight. But I mean, that's dad. That's your head coach. That's your dad. He knows your body language, and of course, your dad's always going to protect you. You know, when he sees that you're just not mentally there, physically there. I feel like, you know, he was just reading what Danny, you know, said, or he was just, you know, taking the action that Danny wanted to do. But sometimes you gotta say that fighter, you know, from your opponent. So yeah, no, straight out, Danny quit. He's just not the same Danny. You know, one of my takeaways from this was like, you know, when we think of Danny in his prime, when you think of Angel during Danny's prime, they were the two. Not Danny, but Angel was like one of the loudest people in every single room that Danny was in. Any fight that Danny was in, Angel was the loudest guy talking the most crap, and nowhere to be seen, man. Again, Danny had a good career, not a great career. He could have done more, in my opinion, at the end, but just I think it's done. It's over. Danny had to retire.
Man, Big Bro says Danny went out sad like his overrated career, getting gifts against Herrera, among others. He also adds he automatically should not be considered for the Hall of Fame for that, if he was even in consideration. Yeah, we look at his career here. We spoke about it last time out. Very inactive in the past few years. He hadn't fought since July of 2022.
Yeah.
Before that, he fought in December of 2020. So he fought Jose Benavidez Jr. at 154 in the year of 2022. Fought Errol Spence Jr. at 147, 2020. Had a couple fights that year, but I mean, yeah, as you said, it seemed like during COVID, that's when it kind of went downhill for him. Inactive. He had the mental breakdown stuff that he spoke on this time around. Went for history, 160 pounds. I mean, he didn't even win at 154. He didn't win a belt at 154. He didn't fight a real 154 pounder. Went straight to 160, and even Lara. And I'm hearing this was a catchweight, right? You see Lara's weight there, 157, basically 156 and 3/4. So, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, they had spoken about this fight for a while. I just don't know what the game plan was. I don't know what the idea was for Team Garcia, because he barely even threw punches. And it seemed like the first time he got hit flush wasn't even the hardest punch, but he took a knee and that was it. Kind of strange, but yeah, definitely not expected. We expected Lara to win by decision. He got the stoppage, Chris, man.
Yeah, before the fight, Gio, I mean, the easy bet was to say Lara decision. We know that Lara's, a master boxer. Even at 41, those skills don't go away. Maybe the speed, the legs, the timing go, but the skills are there. So in my mind, I try to think what's the best way Danny can win, and for me, it was like he needs to rewind the clock and lands a kind of punch that he landed on Amir Khan. I thought that was the only way. If he somehow, caught Lara, slipping and caught him with something where he would knock him out. And that moment never came. I think of De La Hoya against Pacquiao. Danny just doesn't have that gun no more. He doesn't have that in him anymore. And again, it's a sad way to go. It's always, everybody has their time in the ring, but yeah, this was a sad way for Danny to go. Because in his prime, even though he came up short, he was an exciting kind of name to mix around. But yeah, man, I think the Danny Garcia career has to come to an end.
Man, do you guys think he should retire? I'll probably put a poll up and read the results next week. But yeah, I think it's that time, man. Or take an easy fight, like the ones he was taking in his prime. The Rod Salkas of the world, Chris. He can still defeat the Rod Salkas of the world. Take one of those and then probably retire. Do it like in Philly or something, for the Philly Ricans, right? But yeah, this was a sad, sad fight. Like I said, he barely threw any punches. He barely landed any punches. And let's not take credit away from Lara. 41 years old, Chris, allegedly. He looked pretty good, man. He looked confident going into the ring. It's like he knew all along that Garcia was going to fight this way, but he looked good. Crazy to say, 41 years old, it's 2024, and he's still out there defending his title at middleweight. I mean, I'm not sure how much Lara has left in the tank, but I mean, he looked pretty good in my opinion, surprisingly.
And again, Joe, we talked about this on last week's podcast. I mean, Lara was fighting on the undercard of a guy that he fought in his prime, and that a few people, including myself back then, thought that he'd be Canelo. Obviously, I look back at the fight all over again. Maybe I was a little too hard on Canelo. But I did say, Lara is going to come into this fight, even though he's way past his prime, even though he doesn't have a shot in hell to get a rematch with Canelo. Something about him is gonna try to put on a type of fight where if Canelo has no dancing partner, if Canelo can't get those names, if something happens last minute, he wants to throw his name in there and get another shot, another payday. Because who doesn't? But yeah, man, if you would have told me he was gonna knock out Danny Garcia, I would have been like, nah, I'm not putting my money on that. I'm putting my money in decision. So, props to Lara for being the first man to stop PSG.
Yeah, let's go to some comments here. Broke his dad's heart. You could see it, says Iceman. He also adds, don't know if they would put him back on a main card. Now, this was the co-main, Chris.
That's crazy.
I mean, we're going to get into Plant McCumby, which was actually a very good fight, very entertaining. McCumby, virtually unknown. Plant, trying to get himself back in the mix. Obviously, he had the Canelo loss. He had the David Benavidez loss. Got that KO against Darrell, but, this was a tough fight for him. And then let's just give our last thoughts on Lara Garcia, and then we can move on to that fight, which was a lot more exciting, which probably should have been the co-main, but just staying on the topic of Lara Garcia, I mentioned last podcast that I thought it was a disgrace that this fight was for a title. I mean, Garcia never had fought at 160, didn't look good at 154. Not sure why he got a title shot, but I mean, I guess the name, right? The name, it was big enough to be on a Canelo undercard and try to sell more tickets, try to sell more pay-per-views. As we saw, he did not deserve the title shot. Look, I mean, not even like a shadow of him, so I don't even know what that was. He didn't throw punches, didn't look good. I doubt we'll see him again on a big card, but I think, why not? Just take an easy fight and get a W and probably retire, get one last paycheck. Hall of Fame, to me, for sure, no. Even though he was an entertaining fighter in this era, to me, he just doesn't have the accolades to make it to the Hall of Fame. But look, if Tim Bradley made it, man, damn near everybody can make it.
Yeah, for me, and we talked about this, which guy deserves it more? But I think this one pushes Danny out of that conversation. Like you said, there's gonna be people that are, that helped you along the way. There's people, in certain places that cast the vote for the Hall of Fame. If you made nice with them, they're probably gonna put you in. But if you want to be objective and be impartial, this one kind of cements what the last 4 or 5 years has been for Danny, and it's, in my opinion, it's not good enough to make it to the Hall of Fame. So, if somebody deserves it from these two guys, it's Erislandy Lara, to do this at 41 years of age. Like, mad respects to him.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move on, man. We'll see if Lara gets that Canelo fight, Chris. 10 years later.
Hey, I don't think he gets that payday, but hey, he's trying to make a case for himself.
All right. Well, let's move on, man. As I stated, Caleb Plant against MAGA McCumby, Chris.
MAGA McCumby.
23-2 now. Caleb Plant, 14 KOs, 32 years old. He didn't get the KO in this one. I believe I predicted a stoppage. Oh, actually he did, man. What am I thinking? It was such a tough fight that I thought it went the distance, but I mean, look, I don't know. I thought McCumby could have continued. Plant, as you see it there, down in round 4, might have gone down before that. The referee counted a series of slips there, quote unquote, but Plant had a tough time against McCumby, who, as I said, was virtually unknown, but he showed tremendous power in this one. I mean, look at his record before this. He was 28-0 with 21 knockouts. Obviously not fighting the toughest opposition, but I think he proved that he belonged, Chris. And I posted an interesting poll of who people want to see Berlanga next, and he was one of the names on there. So I'll take a look at the numbers. I haven't looked at it yet, but I think McCumby definitely put himself kind of in the mix. I'm hearing people say, oh man, he should fight Berlanga next, or he should fight a guy like Diego Pacheco next. I think they're bringing this guy back.
Yeah, like you said, Gio, he was virtually an unknown. I think I was introduced to him when you first called him MAGA. I was like, okay, who's this guy? Well, what's going on back here? So yeah, that's the thing about these unknowns, right? They've been obviously padding their records. Those records are gonna look nice when you're not fighting anybody, but it's what you do when you go up against some recognizable names that you're like, okay, this guy maybe didn't win, but I like this style. I like his heart. That's the way you become you get noticed by the fans. And we have a fight next, this coming week with another guy that's virtually unknown. And hey, maybe he could take a look at this fight with McCumby and say, you know what, I want to make a small statement here or there. But yeah, Caleb Plant, again, like you said, Gio, this was an entertaining fight. That's the thing we love about boxing. Sometimes we think we know the answer. Sometimes we think we're gonna, get the decision that we all expect, and something like this happens, you're like, whoa. So again, like I think this is fight of the year, not fight of the night. It kind of stole the show a little bit from the main event, but yeah, man, props to Caleb Plant. He just continues to raise his stock. He continues to walk out of that square circle with more fans than what he came in. So again, Caleb Plant, even in touching the canvas, was able to walk away with some Mexican fans.
Yeah, if you look at McCumby, man, I saw a funny comment online. They said, "Man, Chris Algieri, you're not fooling us. You just grew a mullet and a mustache." You see his face; he does kind of look like Chris Algieri. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing him again. Now, when it comes to Plant, man, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't used to like him. I thought he was a champion, obviously, but that resume was very, very suspect. He played it smart. He had that IBF title, I believe it was, that Canelo needed. He won it against Uzcategui. Didn't really fight anybody after that. He was taking easy fights, waiting for that Canelo payday. Canelo needed that belt, so they had to offer him a lot of money to fight. He made his millions. But I think ever since then, he's been earning my respect, at least. Putting up a good fight against Canelo, not making excuses, giving Canelo his props. Now it seems like they're good friends. You see them when they run into each other, they embrace each other, and then slapping the shit out of Charlo. I thought that was funny. Which that's a potential fight too, man. Whenever Charlo decides that he wants to box again, that's a big money fight right there. Obviously fighting the Benavides, the plan against the KO, against Darrell, impressive, one of the best of the year. And now this fight, I mean, he had to dig deep in this one, really. McCumby seemed like a very strong fighter. Seemed to gas out Trevor McCumby, but Plant stuck with it. You can tell that he became a much better boxer ever since that Canelo loss. I mean, he looked pretty sharp offensively, putting his punches together. He showed that colmillo, that veteran, experience, you can say. And he pulled it off. I think he pulled this one off with experience, but styles make fights, and this was a tough one for him, but he pulled it off, and I'm liking what I'm seeing from Plant. I wouldn't mind seeing him against Berlanga or a Munguia next. Munguia, who fights on Friday. We'll talk about that. And of course, we'll get into Berlanga, but yeah, I think Plant is due for another big fight.
So, Jim, we went to the Uzcategui fight against Plant. You're saying that you were not a fan of him after that fight?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
It was not impressive at all to me.
Good, Jim?
Oh, I just said I was not impressed, no.
I was actually impressed after that fight. He dropped Uzcategui in the second round. In the fourth, I was like, okay, this guy's good. Obviously, Uzcategui probably a solid B fighter, nothing crazy. But I was like, okay, this is a former champion, and Caleb Plant, that's where he picked up a belt. But I was impressed with him with that fight, and of course the Canelo fight, there's levels to it. Like we said, he downloaded and learned a lot from that invaluable experience. But again, I think I've been most impressed in how he's been able to garner fans, Gio. Again, It's not easy to win over the Mexican faithful. Somebody just have to be born Mexican, and if you're not, it's very tough. But Caleb Plant has been putting in the work. He's shown respect, like you said, with Canelo after that fight. Obviously you want the theatrics in the beginning to get excited about a main event. But since that fight, he's grown, like you said, not an easy bout. This one with McCumby, sometimes the toughest assignments are the ones with opponents that people expect you to walk over, win easy. But some of these unknowns, they have nothing to lose, and this is what McCumby did this fight and made it tougher Plant. But Plant passes, gets the job done, and like you said, there's names in that division now that are very, very exciting. A lot of people are now getting on the Caleb Plant bandwagon and saying, you know what, even though this guy lost to Canelo, I respect him, and I can't wait to see who he fights next.
Yeah, and look, Plant was active for about a year and a half. His last fight was in March of 2023. That was the David Benavidez loss. So, yeah, I thought he looked good on offense. On defense, a little shaky. Big Bro says those weren't knockdowns. That knockdown he got punched like in the shoulder. It kind of got him off balance, and then he immediately he shook his head at the referee. But I guess it connected. I guess I don't know. At the end of the day, it didn't hurt him. So he was good to continue. Played it smart. As Iceman says, he has good ring IQ. He also says that it was a good fight. And he mentions that Darrell KO. Yeah, definitely got that impressive KO. Plant not known as a power puncher. Only 14 KOs now and 23 victories. But that one was definitely impressive. And yeah, I'm actually excited for a Caleb Plant fight, Chris. I'm excited to see what's next.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you, Gio, and I'm going to christen him his nickname right now. Who do you want to see Caleb Miklo Plant fight next? Who makes sense for him?
Like I said, I think Berlanga, that fight already sold itself, in my opinion. They were smart with that. They used the Canelo platform to build their future fight. And I like to see him against Charlo. There's bad blood there. I think he wins that one. And then of course Munguia. I think you got to give Munguia his props. He's a name now. Yeah, he's not Canelo, the level of Canelo stardom, but he's a star, you can say. And especially in today's boxing, where there are really no boxing stars unless your last name is Alvarez, Joshua, maybe Fury, in Asia. But aside from that, there's no real stars in boxing anymore. So I think Munguia is probably top 10 in that sense. He outsells a lot of people. And after that Canelo win, I'm sure, a lot of people started noticing who he was. He's still relatively young, so Munguia's going to get big fights. I think Munguia sells. I think that's a good fight, competitive fight. At this stage, I don't know if I favor Plant over too many guys, though, man, over the younger guys, man. Even Berlanga, Chris. I was kind of impressed by Berlanga, man. I don't know if I think those fights are 50-50. Plant Berlanga, Plant Munguia, and of course Diego Pacheco's coming. No Diddy, but he works with Hearn, so I'm not sure if that one's possible. But yeah, I think a big name for Plant for sure.
Let me give you the scenario. Let's say
Chris.
Chris.
I forgot one name. David Morrell. I think that one's very possible. PBC.
That's dangerous. All right, I'm gonna give you the scenario, Gio. If Caleb Plant were to fight this coming Saturday against Jaime Munguia, who would win? And then he takes a stencil beam. He fights the following Saturday against Edgar Berlanga. Who wins? If they were to sign it this week.
I might say right now, man, that's tough. But I might pick Munguia over Plant right now.
Okay.
I just think that Plant will struggle with the power. He couldn't keep Canelo off of him. He couldn't get Benavidez off of him. He struggled to keep Trevor McCumby off of him. You know, I think Munguia has great stamina in that fight. I think he could pull it off. I think Plant is a better boxer, but whew, man. I might say Munguia. Not too confident in that answer, but Berlanga Plant might slightly favor Plant.
Okay.
Only because Berlanga has struggled against anyone who can move, Chris. Who was the guy? Quigley, I think, who he couldn't stop. So, yeah, I think Plant might get him in that one. Outbox him. But hey, these are not givens, man. Like Munguia, to me, we haven't even seen him yet, but I'm sure he's gonna be a better boxer on Friday, you know, after that Canelo experience. And I think we already saw that Berlanga was slowly becoming a better boxer just in this fight. He kind of learned how to survive. As Teddy Atlas says, he behaved like a fighter. You know, if there are any questions about Berlanga's chin, his heart, whatever you want to say, I think those questions were answered in this fight.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Gio. I actually 100% agree with you. I would favor Caleb Plant to have a better chance at beating Berlanga than Munguia. You know, obviously both of those opponents have downloaded experience from fighting Canelo, but I think just the fact that Canelo, you know, led Munguia off in those last 2 rounds a little bit, I think that help preserve Munguia if he were to face Caleb Plant next. And Berlanga, you know, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but he took some damage in this fight. And I think that, you know, what you said, coupled with him having trouble with, you know, the full movement of his opponents, might just give Caleb Plant a better chance for Caleb Plant to beat him than Munguia. But yeah, man, I think Caleb Plant needs to, you know, ride the coattails of Canelo just a little bit. Like you said, great exposure. They have mad respect for each other after that fight, and that's where he gets, you know, a big microscope on him by the Mexican people who are, you know, really taking to him. So yeah, man, great job for Caleb Plant. His stock goes up after this fight.
Yeah, that fight against Uzcategui was in 2019. You see some of the names there that Caleb Plant fought. Not too much going on there. I think I remember watching the Caleb Trua one. Man, I was so upset. That was such a boring fight. And then actually after that in 2021, that's when he got that Canelo shot. KO Durrell, lost to Benavides, now defeats McCumby. But yeah, I think Caleb has earned his stripes and he deserves a big fight, in my opinion. Saludos to El Pachuco. He says Munguia is going to take over as the best 168-pounder after Canelo's era. And yeah, look, I think Munguia has a lot to learn. I think once he starts getting hit, he resorts back to what he knows, which is fight. He's back with Eric El Terrible Morales as well. So we'll see if we see a better Munguia after that change as well. But I think, man, he has shown that he has power and that chin. I mean, he got knocked down against Canelo, but took everything else. So I think that's going to be a difficult guy to defeat.
Yeah. And I think it makes sense, Gio. I think you know, I'm not sure how the promoters work right now, but it would make sense to have a Munguia Caleb Plant on your undercard of a Canelo. I'm obviously, you know, you can make that its own main event, and it would be obviously the main event. But you know, that would be a treat for the fans to, you know, on Cinco de Mayo weekend if they were to put that fight together, man. So hopefully that happens. If not, Berlanga, like you said, one of the Charlos. So, man, again, I'm excited to see what Caleb Plant has next.
Yeah, and Chris, let me rewind a little bit. Let's not skip over the fact that Lara has 5 KOs in a row now, man. What middleweight era are we living in, Chris? This does not seem real. Lara, who was never known as a power puncher, he had 4 going into the fight, 4 in a row. DSG becomes his 5th. So, insane. But let's go ahead and get into it, Chris. This is what we came for. No Diddy.
No nitty.
Saul Canelo Alvarez, VMC, the face of boxing, undisputed. I'm gonna go ahead and say it, Chris. Even though the IBF stripped him of his belt, he's still the undisputed champion at 168, just like Usyk is the undisputed champion at heavyweight. We all know it, Chris. I don't care what these people try to tell us. Take their belts all you want, but you see the article here that I'm pulling up. IBF stripped Canelo because he refused to fight number one contender William Skull, whoever the hell that is, Chris. Who's the IBF to tell Canelo he has to fight this guy named Skull? Unbelievable. 22-0, 9 KO Skull. 32 years old out of Germany. I mean, come on, man. But I'll talk about it later, but Berlanga said he wants the IBF now to get that Canelo rematch. He's trying to play it smart, get another payday. But let's get into just the fight itself, Chris. I mean, Berlanga, who sold the fight, he did a very good job. We'll talk some numbers, Chris. There's a lot of rumors out there. But, we gave him props last week for selling the fight. I believe he earned his paycheck, Chris. He earned that payday. You know that. I believe he earned it. And, he got knocked down early in the fight. I believe it was the third. And did well enough to survive. We can talk about whether Canelo kind of let him off the hook or not, but they showed each other respect at the end. I thought it was a pretty good fight. I didn't expect Berlanga to survive, to fight back like he did. He did take a beating, but he was able to survive. And I think it was a good overall event, I'm gonna say. And like I said, we'll get into the numbers and all that, but let's get your initial reaction to this fight.
Yeah, no, first of all, there was a celebration of Mexican heritage, a celebration of Canelo. Again, we always say that you never know when a fighter in their prime, especially in their 30s, where they're gonna, get old overnight. But again, this is a reminder that Canelo is still at the top. Again, there's no slippage there, at least not to the naked eye. So a lot of people are still excited to see just how good Canelo is, how accurate, how strong. Again, this is a smaller guy taking it to the bigger guy at 190 plus. So the fact that Canelo was, able to do what he always does and do it to the bigger Berlanga. Again, props to Berlanga for selling this. But I mean, that fight, even though there was, it was pretty dominant on Canelo's side, it was very entertaining. Berlanga, truly took everything Canelo had. And you and I predicted a knockout, right, Gio? We predicted that the skills were just going to be too much, that the defense on Berlanga's side was going to see something similar to Kirkland, and it was not to be. So props to Berlanga for being gutsy, for being a warrior, for being tough. And moments in that fight where you thought that, the corner might stop it to protect them the way they, the way Munguia was protected a little bit, you would think with that youth, they were going to stop the fight. And now Berlanga went the distance, and props to him. But there is still only one king in that Canelo.
117, 110, 118, 109, 2 times. Not sure what rounds they scored for Berlanga. I don't think he won any round in this fight. I don't think he won any moment in this fight. Caleb Plant said it too. He said, hey, I'm not hating, but this guy didn't win a round, But yeah, man, you got to commend him. He got knocked down early. A lot of people thought Canelo was going to finish him. He survived. He took some hard shots. Those body punches were brutal. Those gotta hurt, man. And it's so easy to take the Danny Garcia route. Hey, this guy's better than me. I'm going to lose anyway. Let me just take a knee, go home safely. I got my paycheck secure either way. But I think Berlanga, by surviving, by going the distance with Canelo, earned the respect of a lot of people. And, he tried to fight back, Chris. He just wasn't good enough, but he tried. And yeah, I don't know if I have much about the fight itself other than, man, that was a brutal left hook that he took by Canelo. Pounded on his chest, got right back up and continued fighting.
Yeah, again, that hook was right on the money, and you saw Berlanga just smile, and pat those gloves, and he knew he made a small mistake and he paid for it. Again, I just gotta commend Berlanga because just the way he moves, the way he talks, the way he carries himself. He's a street guy. And sometimes these street guys, they don't have that foundation that the guy across from you that's been born and bred in the sport like Canelo has. You don't last long. So again, you saw the limited skill set in Berlanga, but there was no limit to his heart, to his toughness. And again, maybe he'll learn from this and he's able to go back to the lab and work on some things. But yeah, that heart just can't be denied.
Yeah, and a lot of people giving Munguia credit for his heart too against Canelo. Let's Pachuco says a lot of people don't appreciate how tough of a fight Munguia was for Canelo. It was a tough, action-packed, toe-to-toe battle. He also says Berlanga weighed close to 200 pounds on fight night.
Yep.
I guess he's deserving of a participation trophy for going the distance, he says. Clyde says Berlanga coming in as a heavyweight was the only reason why he survived the fight. What do you think about that? Iceman says Berlanga like 205.
Yeah, no, he was a big boy up there. Again, I agree. I think if Berlanga would have not ballooned up that high, he would not have taken the punches as well as he did. Still, he was getting tagged all night, absorbing those punches, getting taken to school by a smaller, all-time great fighter, in my opinion. But again, it's still very frustrating when you're landing one punch to Canelo's five. That can totally demoralize you. Like you said, there's moments that he could have, said, "Hey, this is enough. I'm good." But again, that's that pride that he has in that. He wanted to see the distance against an all-time great. So again, I think there's a lot of variables, Gio, but I think one of those was like, I want a rematch one day. He probably realized early on, he's like, oh man, I'm not at the level, but I want to at least give a good account of myself so I can one day, rematch this champion. So again, not on the same level as Canelo. We saw the skill set is there's levels to it, and but again, you got to commend him for his spirit.
Yeah, and look, Chris, Munguia is 27 years old. I think at that point you're supposed to be in your prime physically, mentally. You're supposed to be at your best. 22-1 now, 17 KOs, but this doesn't look right, man. You see his resume right there. He fought Patrick McCrory in February of 2024, and then he fought Canelo right after that. I think that's what's wrong with boxing nowadays, man. These guys protect that O. They're waiting for that payday, and next thing you know, you go from McCrory to Alvarez, and he wasn't ready. As I said, I think he became a better boxer. We'll see what's next for him, but before that, if you take a look at his resume, Romer Alexis Angulo was a tough fight, but I mean, other than that, he doesn't have much there. So,
yeah.
But look, the fact of the matter is, he's gonna get a big fight. Let me show you guys the poll of who people think he should fight next. And here it is, 540 votes. Who would you want to see Berlanga fight next? 4% Diego Pacheco, 5% McCumby, 42% Munguia, 49% Caleb Plant. That's the one I voted for. I just think that the fight already kind of sold itself. As I said, they use Canelo's platform. They use Canelo's PPV to promote themselves. During the press conference and then in the show itself, I think Berlanga showed a lot of heart, a lot of you-know-what. And then Plant did the same, and Plant got the stoppage. So I think it makes sense to me.
Yeah, style-wise, that fight is salivating. Again, you mentioned Caleb Plant has great boxing skills, but not the power. Not the greatest power. And that Berlanga is the opposite. He's got the power, just doesn't have the best skill set. So I think that's a good mix. They kind of even out. I would say maybe 52-47. Around it's that close. So both guys, it depends on who's planned out that night. But yeah, that would make for a great build up. Both these guys will talk their smack. Both of them, would try to win because you can say the winner of that deserves maybe a rematch at Canelo. So yeah, that's a fight that would make a lot of sense. A lot of fans would tune out for that fight. They're now well known by the boxing fans, the boxing public. So that's a fight that definitely makes sense, and they both speak English, so there'll be no shortage of sound bites.
Yeah, I just can't imagine the Caleb Plant and Jaime Munguia trash talk.
Yeah.
Munguia's just be like, huh? ¿Qué dijo? So.
Bueno,
And
¿qué me dijo el micro?
And
But
the translators are not gonna tell him exactly what he said. They're gonna make something up. So yeah, I don't see that trash talk working out.
dijo algo de tu mamá o algo. But no, that fight makes sense, Gio. And the powers that be, those promoters are smart that they would try to capitalize, like we said, on just the recency of this Canelo fight, where those three names are just in the back of people's heads. So yeah, that fight makes sense, man. And if it's a good undercard, I might consider paying pay-per-view for that.
Big Bro says he might not call him Bernalgas anymore. He said he earned me calling him Berlanga from now on.
Bernalgas.
Hey, you know what? I like the fact that, he thanked Canelo for the opportunity. He said, "You're my idol." He said there was a clip, and then Berlanga talked about it also in the post-fight press conference. He said he told Canelo, it's unfortunate that, this is how we kind of met, me talking trash. He said you've always been my idol. Sorry for all the trash talk. And he said that Canelo pretty much interrupted him and said, hey, it doesn't matter. I know why you did it. You were selling the fight, but keep working, keep training, and you're gonna be world champ. So yeah, a lot of respect between the two. I'm sure they'll work together at some point. As I said, Canelo and Plant seem like they're pretty cool with each other. And I don't know, man. I think Canelo sometimes is too nice, man. It's kind of like, remember that phase that Pacquiao went through when he stopped knocking people out and he was thanking God every 5 seconds. I just think Canelo right now, he's looking out for the next generation. You've been seeing Teofimo working with him, him literally carrying Munguia. He said during an interview, Chris, that they asked him, hey, did you hold him up in the 12th round? He said, man, I held him up all fight. That's what he said. And now with Bernalgas too, giving him advice and all that stuff. So he's looking out for these guys, but maybe David Benavidez can bring out the mean Canelo. The mean Canelo came out in the first half of the fight, and then after that, it seemed like he just kind of got bored of beating on Berlanga and didn't get the KO. I think it was just difficult. I think he figured, man, this 200-pounder is not going down. Let me not injure my hands. Let me just, win these rounds, give him some good advice, and then go home.
Canelo's been carrying these boys since cotton. Yeah, a little too much glaze for my liking. You know what? If I were to lose a fight, I give the guy props. Maybe a little bit like, hey man, you're a great fighter, blah blah. But tampoco, man. Este compa se pasó, le trajo flores, roll out the red carpet. Man, my boy got humbled. But let's go to that punch, Gio. That punch that I think Canelo must have hurt the bell or whatever, and Berlanga landed a clean punch. What did you think of that moment?
Made things interesting for that second and a half, but yeah, I didn't make too much of it, honestly.
To me, I was like, oh dang, like it's the first clean punch that Canelo takes. Obviously he heard the bell, he thought the round was over, in my opinion. Gets punched clean. Again, that just shows what a granite chin Canelo has. He's got one of the best chins in all of the history of the sport. Right there alongside Triple G, like just some of the best chins in all of boxing. So I mean, the fact that he took that punch, clean punch, from a 190 plus pound fighter, I'm like, man, if that didn't put him down, nothing will.
Yeah, and they asked Canelo about Berlanga's power, and I think he spoke about that specific incident. because he saw Canelo tell him something right after. He said, I told him that he hits like my son, so, they asked him about Berlanga's power. He said he didn't feel it, but he also said, but maybe I'm just too strong, We know Canelo's chin. He's very hard to hurt. Triple G couldn't do it with those clean flush punches. So, yeah, I wasn't really expecting him to get hurt in this one. I know Berlanga said that he was going to knock him out and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, a lot of that is just all talk. But they did do a good fight selling this fight, Chris. I don't know if you want to get into some numbers now, or do you want to get into Turkey and Dana White, who were with Kendrick Lamar at the UFC event. Somebody over here mentioned Kendrick Lamar. Sorry, Terrence Crawford. Somebody mentioned Terrence Crawford in the comment section. What did they say? Where's it at? Oh man, I can't find it now, but somebody said something about that. But yeah, what do you want to get into next? Let's go to some comments here, and then you can pick the next topic. One of the ones that I was talking about right now. So let's go here. Pachuco says Canelo is more skilled than Crawford. Oh, there it is. Nobody at 168 or below presents a challenge to Canelo. I strongly agree. I would like to see Canelo rematch Bivol, but I don't know if he can muster the activity to beat Bivol, he says. And then Blitz Bane says, you have to remember Canelo went in with an injury. Fighting Bivol, things are different now. Iceman says, yeah, Canelo seems like a good dude and a good sense of humor. Hilarious, man. Ever since he learned English, he's been a menace. And I think a great testament to that, him being a good person, you had that interview with Amir Khan, and that was one of the first things that Amir Khan said. Obviously, he said, oh, man, Canelo has a ton of power. He's a beast, but he's like, man, he's just a good dude. He's a good family guy, and we respect each other. So, yeah, man, I haven't heard too many people say bad things about Canelo, even though he does receive a lot of hate. But I'm sure that's just from the people who know him through their TV screens and not personally.
Yeah, shout out to Amir Khan, man. People are gonna say that I was glazing him, but hey, I said on facts. Amir Khan was outboxing Canelo until he got knocked out.
This guy, you said more than that. You said more than that, but I wouldn't even mention it.
Amir, you gonna knock them out, Amir? Come on, go for broke. Nah, Amir did not have the power to knock that grand action of Canelo, but man, he was boxing beautifully in that fight.
Let me go. Yeah, and you even asked him about that. I don't know if it comes out in this clip that I'm about to play, but you were like, hey, you were winning a lot of those rounds. He's like, nah. Like, it is a 12-round fight, like he knew he was stronger. So, but yeah, let me play that clip.
And you've been in there with Canelo. You've been there with all the best.
Man, I thought Canelo at his peak. You know what I'm saying? And Canelo's a beast. And he's a great man. He's a good family man as well. Got a lot of respect for him. I like him. We've always had mutual respect for each other. And he still has a picture of me and him in his front room. I saw on a documentary because he really thought that was one of his biggest fights, like with the hype that I had. So yeah, man, it was good times.
And then when people see that fight back, you're winning those early rounds.
It looks boxing for a 12-round fight. Even though I won them early rounds, he caught me with a good shot. He had the power, he had the strength. He was so big. I remember thinking it's easy. I can hit him when I want. But then obviously I knew that when he hit me with a couple of them body shots and he hit me with them shots, I was like thinking, this guy can hit hard.
Yeah, that's Amir Khan, man. That's one of the better interviews I've seen as far as like a guy being honest, like Amir Khan obviously got knocked out, but he had nothing but praise for Canelo, and he kept it real. He said, I knew I was winning a lot of those rounds, but this guy was strong.
And I know Amir Khan is retired, Gio, but I'm gonna play matchmaker, man. Two former opponents of Amir Khan fought last Saturday. ESG, Danny Garcia, and Canelo. I wouldn't mind seeing Amir Khan if he gets back into shape and goes a good 12 rounds against Erislandy Lara, man, for that middleweight championship. Looks like Amir Khan is walking around 170 right now. Post retirement is good, but if he gets back in shape, one more go, I think that would be a nice little snatch of of a middleweight belt. Like you said, a weak era. If there's ever a time, if there's ever a name, a 41-year-old title holder sounds enticing, in my opinion. If Amir Khan wants to do it.
Wow. Hey, I think he beats Danny Garcia right now. That version of Danny, he will get his get back against Danny for sure.
Me will beat Danny Garcia right now, man.
Who?
But I mean,
Who?
hey,
I didn't hear it.
you and me would be Danny, man. I
Oh.
would just outbox him
If we fight him,
the whole fight.
if we fight him at the same time, yeah.
But yeah, man. Yeah, shout out to Amir Khan, man. Hell of a fighter, even better human being.
All right, talking about divisions, 168, one of the hottest divisions right now, Chris. Obviously, you got Canelo, you got Jaime Munguia, you got Edgar Berlanga, you got Diego Pacheco, you got Christian and Billy still. I think he's lower than those guys, even though they hype him up a lot. But you also got Caleb Plant. So, and really anybody else who wants to go up there, the Charlo twin. Obviously, that fight with Plant makes sense. But one of the hottest divisions right now, man. A lot of young talent.
Yeah, no, again, 168 it's crazy to say, when you think of hot divisions, you think of welterweight, you think of middleweight, you think of heavyweight, you think of lightweight. Yeah, right now the one is the Canelo division, 168 is moving, man. Again, it's a good time to be a super middleweight. But yeah, back to the question about Canelo rematching Bebo. Just the same way we say Terrence Crawford has a ceiling, I think that his ceiling is at 154. This kind of fight tells me, maybe Canelo's ceiling is at 175, 180. Again, he's a small guy, 5'7", 5'8", built like a tank, huge muscle on Canelo, but everybody's got their limits, Gio. Do you think after this performance, after seeing him fight a bigger guy, does Canelo have a chance at beating Dimitri Bivol?
Yeah, I think I said it all along. I think Canelo has a good chance of winning the rematch. I don't think he was prepared physically, mentally for that Bivol fight. I just think that Canelo is great at adjusting. If you guys remember against Golovkin, the first one, he came in pretty heavy. He looked pretty heavy against Bivol till he looked slow. In the second fight, he slimmed down against Triple G. Decided to fight a different type of fight. Brought it to him more as opposed to backing up, trying to outbox him. He kind of stood a little more toe to toe with Triple G and countered him, and obviously kept working the body and all that. So he adjusted well, and I just think that, yeah, I think he has a good chance. I think independent of this fight, I always thought he did.
Yeah, that second fight against Triple G, I think that was great uh, strategy by Canelo and the Canelo team. I think even Eddie Reynoso told him, like, you're a much better boxer. You can stay in the pocket and you can counter him. You can beat him all day, and that's something that I didn't think he could do. That's not a fight that I thought he would ever do or take to Triple G in that second fight. And even though I felt like Canelo lost that first fight, I wholeheartedly give him that second fight. He boxed beautifully. His chin held up. He was faster than Triple G, landed more in the counter. Something that Canelo's a master at. So, yeah, great fight and great point, Gio. I will have to disagree, though, when it comes to Bivol. I think Bivol is a whole different animal in a whole different weight class. I think we saw the great discipline in Bivol in that first fight. He was the bigger guy, but he was fighting that fight like he was just a small boxer, just a boxing Canelo, not taking any risk, any chances. He was respecting the greatness that was in front of him, and I think he, unless the money changed Bivol, Gio, unless that money, which we know that money changes fighters, unless those millions change Bivol, I don't see him losing, against Canelo Alvarez if there is a rematch.
Well, I don't know if you heard. Now this is kind of gossip here, but I don't know if you heard Bivol's now ex-wife, who I guess they recently divorced, and she put out a video saying, what did she say? She said something about the real loser that night was Bivol or something, talking to Canelo. saying that after that money changed him and he's like a whole different person now. And she called him the devil and all this stuff. So I don't know. He must be going through stuff. So that's all I know.
See, I didn't know about that, Gio. That's breaking news. That's breaking
Yeah.
deep gossip. But no, again, the money changes people. It makes you a little bit more comfortable. You know, when you go from having a couple hundred in the bank to having millions, and you know all these people, all these women are around you, it can relax you a little bit. So you know, we can see that hasn't changed Canelo. Canelo still has discipline, still has a hunger. So if that kind of people comes in, man, hey guys, get your bets ready, man. Let's make some money. But we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. But I would love to see the rematch. I think everybody here in this chat would love to see that rematch.
Hey man, you acting like Bebo isn't having better be problems right now, man. That could be a nightmare. That could be a nightmare for him.
That is going to be a nightmare for him. That's going to be, in my opinion, the fight of his life. But you know, a couple weeks, months away from that all-star affair, man. I can't wait to see that.
October 12th, which let me scroll this. We haven't talked about this, but Shakur Stevenson is out, Chris. What do you think about that? He was supposed to fight on pay-per-view, if you guys remember, DAZN pay-per-view. The main event was going to be on regular ESPN. I don't know if ESPN Plus is regular, but it was going to be on ESPN Plus if you subscribe, no pay-per-view. But Shakur was going to be on DAZN pay-per-view, which is kind of weird, but I think they just saved themselves a lot of money.
Damn. Dude, what am I going to do about $15 now, Gio?
Hey, you can pay for that Joshua Dubois.
Ooh, is that $15? $20?
I believe it's 20. I believe it's 20. Yep.
Hasta sobra para las palomitas, dog.
¿Qué más?
Yeah. You want to get in? Oh, did you want to get into the numbers? Let's talk numbers before we move on to Dubois, Joshua.
Yeah, so Shakur is out due to a hand injury, so he won't be on that undercard anymore of Bebo Beterbiev October 12th in Saudi Arabia. In case anybody cared out there.
Yeah.
You see this poll right here? It popped up on your screen, so I'll just go ahead and read it. 75% of the people thought Canelo would win by KO. How many times will Berlanga go down? I posted this before the fight. 73% said one to two times. 8% said more than 3 times. 10 said 3 times. 9% said 0. They didn't think Berlanga was going to go down. You see him there. Sat his ass down and he got right up, continued to fight. But yeah, let's get into the numbers, Chris. We talked about Kendrick Lamar already. Obviously, there was a competition going on. You know, I'm sure a lot of people got paid off to go to the Sphere. You know, Oscar De La Hoya was out there. I believe Roy Jones Jr. was out there. Kendrick Lamar was out there. A lot of people were out there. I believe Ryan Garcia was out there too. You know, Turkey splashing the cash. But we already know boxing is king, Chris. Let's talk about those numbers.
Yeah, no. First of all, Joe, anybody that went to the Sphere, y'all traders, man. First of all, I know the Sphere looks cool. It looks awesome. I've seen some pictures, seen some videos. It looked amazing. Let me just say that. It looked really cool. You know, I saw a post that, you know, somebody said it looked like it was Mortal Kombat in there. It just looked awesome. But the product, Gio, the house can look nice and beautiful and everything from the outside. But if the hot meal ain't hot, ain't good, the food don't taste good, what's the point? So yeah, man.
Chris, before you get into it, so let me just give you some numbers just to put into perspective. So obviously they were competing. I think they called the UFC thing like Noche Latina or something. I don't know. They try to put a bunch of Mexican boxers. Their main guy lost, by the way, the main event guy. So to me, you can't build a UFC star because they all lose within a few fights. Like, it's just so easy to lose in MMA. There's so many ways to lose. It's not like boxing, where if you're great, you're great. MMA, you can lose to a guy who's a better wrestler or better of a boxer than you. But that's besides the point. They were trying to compete with Canelo. Obviously, Dana White came out before the fight saying, hey, we're not trying to compete with Canelo. You know, there's enough bread for everybody, essentially. In other words, he was saying, hey, we're going to do numbers. He's going to do numbers. When they first started promoting it, they said, oh, we're going to blow this boxing card out the water. And then Dana White kind of brought down his estimations. He said, hey, we're projected to make 20 million or something like that from live gate. Canelo's projected to make 25 million. And I was like, wait, what? That's where I paused, because everybody was criticizing the Canelo fight. Everybody was saying, oh, Berlanga's not a worthy opponent. Oh, UFC is going to blow this thing out the water. But then you had Dana White right before the fight saying, oh, basically Canelo's going to make more, but saying, hey, I'm not trying to compete with him or boxing. Hey, we can all win. It's a good weekend for Mexican independent weekend and all that stuff. All that cute stuff, Chris. But just wanted to get that because this happened before the fight. Chris, you still there? Are you frozen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought, okay, so yeah, again, Gio, let's go to numbers, man. Let's go to numbers. How much, if you got the numbers there, how many pay-per-view buys did Canelo sell on Mexican Independence Day weekend?
Well, so I'm seeing I saw that high number too. I don't know if I believe that one. I don't know if you want to go ahead and say it.
From what we're seeing, and Gio, we always, we do our own little math. We minus a couple thousand just to keep them honest.
PBC, you know how they do.
PBC, they're saying it's sold. Let me pull up the number. It just sold on me, but upwards of 700,000, 750K. That's what they're saying. That's what the preliminary numbers are saying. We're always a little cautious to put out numbers that the power that be say. So we always minus like 200K, just to try to be a little fair. So minus 200, it's about 500,000 to 550. Still pretty high, Gio.
Yeah.
Pretty high. Shows good numbers. It shows that people are still invested in Canelo. It shows that Mexican independence is still a Mexican holiday. People are, they know that Canelo's not going to be here forever. So I think a lot of them are going like, this may be one of the last times that we can enjoy and bask in the greatness that is Canelo. So yes, still very high numbers, respectable numbers. Even when we take away the 200K that are, that's just our asterisk. So still very good numbers, Gio, man. Canelo's still king.
Yeah, so yeah, I agree. That's a very good number. I'm not sure if a credible source has since, reported this number. You see all types of stuff on the internet, but yeah, I agree. I think it did at least 500K, Chris, and which is really good because like I said, a lot of people were criticizing this fight, were criticizing the opponent. At the end of the day, PBC put some names on there. Stephen Fulton didn't even make the main pay-per-view card. That's how good this was supposed to be. That other card was supposed to be historic, the Sphere first event there and all this stuff. The main event guy wasn't even Mexican, I believe. I don't even know who he is, but I just know that he lost. But yeah, I think at least 500K, 600K wouldn't be too crazy. 750 to me seems very high, especially if PBC people are saying this. PBC tried to tell us that Tank is out here selling 200K pay-per-views. I haven't met anyone in my life who's ever bought a Tank pay-per-view, Chris. But yeah, I'm sure that numbers inflated. There was a funny, I thought, reaction to that from Oscar De La Hoya's girlfriend or wife, not sure what she is, to Oscar. But I don't know if you saw this comment. She actually commented on one of these Instagram accounts who were also reporting that number. She says, hope you're ready for this. She says, this news is faker than my body. Hey, her words, not mine. I can pull up I can show you guys a screenshot right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. I took a screenshot of it. Oh, and then there goes us. Oh, there it is. It focused. You see that? This news is faker than my body. Real pay-per-view numbers aren't even out this soon, she says.
First of all, let's give her a big old L for that. let's give Oscarina a big old L for that. First of all, they don't decide the numbers. They, there's certain entities that get the numbers ahead of time. Yeah, she's nuts. There's certain entities, there's certain powers that be, there's connections there that they might have access to the numbers and ahead of time. So again, I'm not like we said. We are well aware that these numbers could be inflated. Here at ATR, we adjust for inflation. We're all feeling it. We're all feeling inflation. We adjust for inflation. So again, the fact that it's once adjusted, it's 500K. That's still a great number. I've said it time and time again. Sometimes you need a dancing partner, to make those big numbers. But in this case, a lot of people are not sold on Berlanga. We don't know who he is. So it's Canelo kind of selling this initially until Berlanga, started getting into the whole trash talking mix and, made it interesting. So again, these are great numbers for the face of boxing. I think Oscarin predicted what 120K, 110K. He said that the price tag 90 was too much, which I do agree it's expensive. But you know what? If you're a true fan, people are gonna pay and they're gonna show up. And again, 500K, twice that 100K, that 110K that Oscarin predicted. And again, like you said, his girlfriend, wife, whatever. It's just hate at this point, man. It's blind loyalism again. Again, you have to appreciate and respect the cash cow.
Yeah, look, I like the joke. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was funny. I think anytime you can make fun of yourself, it's a funny thing. But look, I'm gonna tell you this, man. If I see Canelo versus Kendrick Lamar next, sorry, I keep calling him Kendrick, man. Crawford, sorry, Crawford. If I see this fight next year on your screen, this is gonna look very, very suspicious, Chris, because obviously Turkey Al-Sheikh was promoting that UFC fight. And at the end of the day, I think it backfired. Oscar talking all that trash, all the boxers supporting that event, Turkey supporting that event, putting money behind it. I think at the end of the day, as we said last week, it can go one or two ways. It can work, or it can make real boxing fans say, you know what? Forget those guys. Forget those traders. We're going to support boxing. We're going to support the face of boxing. And if that real number is anywhere near 750K, then man, I'm gonna give Oscar and Dana White and Turkey Al-Sheikh a ton of credit for promoting Canelo's fight.
Again, I even said it like when I heard Oscarin talking smack and saying he was going this, doing that, I'm like, this guy, I don't think he's that smart. He's not a genius. He does not like Canelo. So this is not a deal. This guy really was just hating on Canelo, and I'm sure it made a lot of people go like, "Hey, we're gonna support like Canelo, man. This guy's off the rails." And we know Gio, we get credentials from Oscarin, but we keep it real on this podcast. If for some reason we don't get credentials in the future, hey, it is what it is. Like we're gonna keep it real, man. But Oscarin a little too much this time around, and it backfired.
Big Bro thinks it was Oscar who wrote that comment. Oscarin, put the phone down. SMH.
Yeah, no, I mean, Oscarin is living his best life, but he's living his crazy life too, man. And it's entertainment, man. It's entertainment at the end of the day. But hey, Oscar, damn, Oscar.
What do you think about, obviously a lot of boxing people were bowing down, probably holding hands, who knows? Kissing booty, a la Vince McMahon status, from back in the day. But what do you think about Terrence Crawford, aka Kendrick Lamar? Like they couldn't even get that right, Chris. So you know how he was posting videos and pictures with Rihanna? Somebody in the comment section said, man, look at her face when she realized that wasn't Kendrick Lamar. I mean, he became a meme overnight, but man, that's just, to me, that's embarrassing, man. You try to lick the boots so bad, and then they don't even know who you are over there. That's crazy.
Well, first of all, let me say, like, I do like Turkey, and I like what he's done, for boxing these last 6 to 8 months. I like Terrence Bud Crawford. I think he's a great fighter. Top three pound for pound. Even in his later stage of his career, he's still doing great things. Um, for me, just Bud has a ceiling, and that ceiling is 154. And even though I'm sure he wants that payday, and I'm sure he tells himself, "Hey, Amir Khan, two divisions below Canelo, got that fight. That's life changing money. I can do the same thing." I don't think he believes he can win that fight, but yeah, I mean that's why you have to tell yourself that you are the best and you deserve that fight, and there's nobody else out there but a Canelo. So I'm sure he's telling himself, willing himself to this life changing money fight. And as for Turkey, I just don't like that he just doesn't understand that there are no's. Money can get you so far and it can open so many doors and it can make enemies into friends, but respect is respect, and he was told no by Canelo, and he didn't like it, and he threw a fit, and he's not happy. So again, yeah, bad luck on that end. Again, I saw Ryan Garcia in the Sphere. I know he's pissed off right now at the boxing world. He is banned for a year, so he's also throwing that fit. So yeah, man. Again, I know I said it earlier, but anybody, even the great Roy Jones Jr. that went to that event on a Canelo night, in my opinion, you guys are a little bit of a traitor, man. But you know, that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. But yeah, again, it's there's only one Canadian boxing, and that's Canelo. It's the Canelo era still.
Chat going in. Clyde says, for Rihanna, I'll pretend to be whoever she thinks. Oh, man. What else have we got? Trump said, I heard in an interview that Vic Ortiz put De La Hoya several times and put down De La Hoya several times in sparring, and when De La Hoya was going to fight Pacquiao. Yeah, Victor Ortiz has been doing some interviews and stuff. Interesting stuff. A lot of people say he'd be quote unquote capping, though, as the kids say. Not sure though. Not sure.
It's funny because yeah, I remember seeing those interviews that just came out a couple weeks ago, and yeah, he did mention that name. He dropped down some people. I didn't know who. He didn't want to say the name. I was trying to figure it out, but okay, it makes sense if it's Karim. There's certain names sometimes that you can say as a fighter, but if those people are in power, the way of studying is, maybe that's why he didn't want to say it. He might need a fight coming back. So again, right now, if Vic Ortiz gets in great shape, calls our boy Andy, makes it work, I can see him taking on DSG, man. At this point, DSG is food for the vultures. No disrespect.
Yeah. Now let's keep it moving. We still got to talk Joshua. We still got to talk Munguia. We'll keep those brief. But tell me what you think about this. Wouldn't you like to see Berlanga with? I mean, we always point fingers at the trainers, but I don't even know who his trainers are, Chris.
Yeah, I don't know who his trainers are, but yeah, Berlanga, if he wants to get to the next level, we said again, you gotta cut sometimes that umbilical cord, and you gotta find some of these world class seasoned trainers. For me, it makes sense. I would say Joel Diaz makes sense, but I mean he's got to be bold, and that's gonna be conflict right there of interest. So I don't know, I mean Robert Garcia only has small guys. I think that would be a great kind of trainer. Something that he does have to work on in defense. And I mean Robert is not known for defense, more known for offense. But that's yeah, I think that's one that makes sense, at least in the offensive game. And I think Robert needs a big guy, man. He likes the little guys, but he needs a big boy in his camp.
You know what? Yeah. I feel like we always name the same people, man. But Freddie Roach would make sense, Chris.
Freddie Roach makes sense.
Cotto had a lot of success with Freddie.
I like Freddie.
Oh,
And Freddie's obviously an offensive-minded coach, but he's probably more defensively minded than a Robert Garcia. So that's a good one. And Freddie's the type of guy that welcomes anybody that is coachable. So I don't know if Edgar is that guy, but Freddie has a good choice.
Now, what do you think about, obviously before the fight, we can all tell a lot of Puerto Ricans weren't getting behind Berlanga. After the fight, it seems like that has changed. What do you think? Do you think from now on Puerto Ricans will support Berlanga like maybe he was hoping for before this fight?
I think a lot of people respected the heart. I think that they realize that he does have his limits. He's not the most technically sound fighter. He doesn't have the best skills overall. But I think they respect that he's got heart. A lot of people, including us, thought that he was going to get knocked out, and just the fact that he went the distance, is a W. So I think he made some fans back home. I think they respect him, a little bit more than they did on Friday night. So I think it's where can he adjust his wrinkles in his game? Like you said, Gio, at this stage of his career, he's in his prime. I don't think there's a lot that he can learn, but maybe there's things that he can amplify more. His power, landing that power, because he was not able to land it on Canelo. And if he can fix that one trick that he can do well, maybe he can pick up some wins along the way.
Yeah, you know what? Like when we used to watch all those fights when he was coming up, the first round KO streak, I remember those were must watch. I remember missing a couple of them because they were just so fast. You're turning the TV on, changing the channel, and next thing you know, the fight is over. But I really liked Berlanga back then. That was around that COVID era. I think we tried to get him on the podcast a couple times just because there was so much hype around this guy, and obviously it was very exciting. That hype kind of died down. We said it many times. Out of those guys, who's going to be the next one up? Definitely didn't think it was going to be him. When it comes to Puerto Rico, we always mention Xander Zayas as that next guy, right? When it comes to super middleweight, we always mention Diego Pacheco as that next guy, right? But Berlanga's hype really died down. But I'm not gonna lie, I really like him after this fight, man. He showed a lot of humility after the fight, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna get better and become a champion." So yeah, I actually really like him after this. I think a lot of Puerto Rican people will begin to support him.
Yeah, and again, he showed a lot of raw emotion. He just, seemed like he was just a normal, everyday guy that I am just vying for a dream. So again, he walked out with a lot. He walked out with a lot of respect, and yeah, a lot of new fans.
And you know what I typically look at, Chris? I know a lot of people don't like it, but I think this is a good measure. I look at Instagram. I'll give you an example. I think Bevo had and I took screenshots of it. I think he had 200K or something, or 150K followers on Instagram or something. After the Canelo fight, got 500,000, 600K. I think he has close to 1 million now. So I always like to look at that stuff. I know Trevor McCumby, when they first started tagging him on the stuff, I looked at his profile. He had 4,000 followers. I can check his too. Berlanga, he's up to 600K. So that's pretty good. He probably wasn't even at 400K before the fight. So, I think that's a decent gauge. Let's look at McCumby. McCumby now is at 9,000, so he more than doubled his following. So yeah, I like to look at that stuff. It's interesting. Just fighting Canelo really brings a lot of eyes to you, and if you can capitalize, which I think he did. I mentioned it last week. He was posting his daily videos of him training, of him. He was at football games, showing off his jewelry, which I wasn't a big fan of, but he was doing it right, man. He's gonna get a good following, in my opinion, and hopefully gets a big fight. You guys saw the names. They can create a mini tournament. Berlanga, Pacheco, Plant, McCumby, Billy. I'm missing one, Munguia. So yeah, I think this was a much better show than I thought it would be. I thought Canelo was gonna stop him. I thought he was gonna get criticized, but this turned out to be pretty good, I would say, overall.
And before we move on, Gio, to Joshua Dubois, man, I got to ask a prediction time.
Yeah.
Who does Canelo fight May 5 de Mayo 2025? What name do you see across the banner for the Canelo name in 2025, 5 de Mayo weekend?
I think it depends a lot on what happens between Bivol and Beterbiev. And I think it also depends a lot on how broken that relationship is with Turkey. I'm telling you, if we see Crawford next, I think this is all just going to be a setup. You know, these guys have been selling this fight all along. But I think it's a possibility. I think he's running out of names, man.
So with that said, who do you think? What do you think?
I'd say probably Bivol. I think he's smart. I think he's gonna have a very tough fight against Beterbiev. I think physically, I think it's gonna be very difficult for Bivol.
Yeah, and again, so many things, so many variables can happen. It's easy to throw a name out there, Gio, but again, there's so many moving variables. There's stubbornness, there's pride, there's there's so many things. But yeah, I'll say now. I do not want to see Crawford. Even though I do want him to get it back somehow, some way. That's not a fight that entices me. Again, there's too much disparity between these two fighters when it comes to weight. Even though they're both on the pound for pound top five, it's just too much difference in weight, too much difference in power, and I don't see that being a competitive fight. So I'm hoping I see Benavidez' name. I'm hoping I see Bebo in September. You can alternate those two names, but I would love for 2025 for us to see Canelo versus Bebo, Canelo versus Benavidez. Man, that would be on the dream list for 2025.
I mean, Benavidez still has to get through Jesse Hart, Chris. I don't know if you saw I'm not sure if that's official yet, but he's supposed to fight. I think his name is Jesse Hart. You guys probably never heard of him. I just remember him from him fighting Zurdo Ramirez twice. Older fighter, Vosdik type of fighter. So once again, taking an easy fight. If he's waiting for the winner of Bivol Beterbiev, then okay, I'll give him a pass. But hey, I see Canelo's petty ass. If Bivol wins, he's gonna go in there and fight Bivol just so David doesn't get that fight.
If Bebo wins, let's make it clear, and Canelo has said it. If Bebo wins in that fight against Beterbiev, that is May. Like, put your bets that that's the fight that comes in May if Bebo wins. But like
undisputed,
you said,
It'll be an undisputed bout.
Yeah, I would be shocked, Gio. I would be shocked if I see Beterbiev's name in either May or September of 2025. I would be like, yeah, that boy that Canelo's got some cajones. So I think it's a dangerous fight, very dangerous fight. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll get definitely more answers as close to a month and a half, 2 months, Gio. Just based off who wins that fight, we're gonna get a lot of answers. Even though we won't get that fight announced for many months later, I think we will have a clear picture of the roadmap to Canelo's next fight.
He should just fight and destroy Buddha already, says Clyde. That way we can put it to bed. He'll KO him like he did Khan.
Yeah, I agree.
Clyde also says, Berlanga earned my respect. I think he earned the respect, earned a lot of fans' respect, even though he came in huge. No, did he?
No, did he?
All right. I'm going to rewind to some comments here, and then we'll quickly move on to Joshua and Munguia. There were some interesting comments. Somebody said that Danny Garcia was losing to Khan before that knockout came. Yeah, I remember watching that fight, man. Khan couldn't stay up on his feet, man. If he would have just survived, yeah, he would have won. Amir Khan was beating, yeah, Iceman says it, until Danny closed his eyes and threw the lucky left. Yeah, man. And that happened. That's true. No one watches MMA pay-per-view, says Clyde. Yeah, go ahead.
I was looking at the no look left, man. It's done wonders for some fighters. Danny with this no look left, knocking out Amir Khan, Oscarin with the no look shot, getting him a gold medal. Hey, close their eyes and let them hands go, man. That's what I would tell AB. Let's go.
Yeah, somebody mentioned AB here. Jesse Hart retired. Jesse Hart retired fighter from 168, moving up to 175 to fight Benavidez, says Trump. He's fighting ridiculous, soft touches, and no one seems to care. Yeah, they don't care. You know what's so funny though? I saw on that Instagram post, I don't know if Benavidez posted it, but people were actually defending this choice. They were saying, "Oh man, Hart's a legit fighter. He's way better than Berlanga and all this stuff." I was like, "Oh man, boxing fans are crazy. Boxing quote unquote fans." But yeah, terrible fight. But yeah, let's move on, Chris. Let's see if next week we get some official numbers. But yeah, I enjoyed the show. I gotta say, I did pay for it. I just figured, man, I'm not sure how much longer we're gonna watch Canelo for, so I'll take advantage, pay for the fights, and see how long he has in this game, man. To me, he still looks good, still looks sharp. He got hit more than usual. Berlanga landed over 100 punches on him.
Really?
Yeah, so he definitely got hit more than usual. But I felt like he felt comfortable. He was saying after the fight, it's like my son, kind of teasing him. But yeah, I think the style the fight offered itself in that way, and Canelo looked comfortable. So you figure if this 200-pound guy can't hurt him, it's gonna be hard for anybody to hurt Canelo. It's gonna take the B-Roll type of boxer to beat him, you know. But yeah, overall, I would give it a good review. And if, like I said, if that number is close to 750K pay-per-view buys, that's gonna be insane. That's gonna speak volumes of real boxing fans.
Yeah, for me, I would give this overall, like a B plus type of event. Again, all the fans like packed that arena. What I saw, the venue, what I saw, videos online on YouTube. It was just a great atmosphere. Again, you could hear the music, everything's still popping. Again, I said at the time, like you can tell when a great champion in their prime, when you start to see the slippage. We saw it with Wilson Chavez. We saw it with Hotel de la Hoya. You feel those moments start to come. Right now, like Canelo, ese computador está enterito. So like we gotta appreciate while we still have him. Couple more fights. Hopefully he gets to fight the Dubois, the Benavidez, and he goes off to the sunset. But yeah, man, again, Canelo still the king.
Ay, Canelo para rato, cabrones. VMC.
PMC.
Clyde says, "Don't forget the meme." All right, here we go, Clyde. This is what Clyde sent me earlier.
That boy Canelo needs to buy a gas station out here somewhere, man. I'll go pull up on Canelo tank, man. Yeah, you gotta support. You gotta support the greats, man.
I don't know if it's popped up yet on your screen, Chris, but this is what Clyde sent me. Corridos versus reggaeton, and there's a picture of Canelo punching Berlanga in the face. You see his face right there? Oh, man, look at that zoom in. Look at that. Hey, man, Peso Pluma took over reggaeton, huh? He made it his. Took over corridos and reggaeton. And shout out to Canelo. He had Fuerza Regida, too, who followed him or walked him into the ring. And also I know our boy George is not here anymore. I don't see him commenting anymore, but shout out to George from the Jorge Razo podcast. One of his guests actually was one of the musicians for Fuerza Regida. Pony, shout out to him if he's watching. We saw him on TV and he went viral. A lot of people were reposting him and stuff. So that was pretty cool to see. But yeah, good show. I know some people criticized the national anthem, que se equivocó, no sé qué tanto. I wasn't even paying attention, but they asked Canelo about it in the press conference, and of course he's had some kind words for her and all that stuff. But yeah,
I'm still waiting to see the Canelo post-fight celebration, man. It's been a minute since I've seen Canelo, con su BMC al 100. But yeah, man, overall great night for him, for his family. Great night of boxing for the Mexican people, man. We've always said, The sport is nothing without the Mexicans, man. They're a built-in fan base, and they always get behind their fighters, but you only get a Fulvio de Chavez once in a generation. You only get a Canelo once in a generation. So, again, when you get those kinds of fighters, man, like, there's always going to be hate, but it's always going to be a lot of great fans. So, I mean, shout out to everybody that spent their hard-earned money and went to the arena and just supported Canelo.
Yes, sir. All right, let's go. Let's get into it, man. We still got another topic or two to discuss. Obviously, this weekend we're gonna have some action. First of all, let's start with Munguia, Chris. And we'll keep this brief because I honestly don't know much about his opponent. Jaime Munguia, 27 years old, 43-1. He has that lone loss versus Canelo, obviously, in his last fight in May. 34 KOs in those 43 wins. You see it there representing Tijuana. He will have Eric Morales back in his corner. And he's fighting Eric Bazinyan. I don't know too much about him. He's Armenian, representing Canada. 32-0, 1 draw, 23 KOs. Good record. 29 years old. I don't recognize too many names. Ronald Ellis is a name that I recognize on his resume. October of 2023. Stopped him. I don't. Marcelo Coceres, who's a veteran who's fought a lot of those top names. He actually dropped Berlanga when they fought, if I remember correctly. So yeah, this should be this is probably going to be a brawl, Chris. 32 wins, 23 KOs for Bazinyan. Munguia, 34 KOs and 43 wins. This is Friday on ESPN. They're partnering with Top Rank ESPN for this fight.
Yeah, like you said, Gio, Munguia's opponent, Bazinyan, relatively unknown. Reminds me a little bit of McCumby. Nobody really knew who he was. Very similar pattern records. Winning records. But with a lot of non-known fighters, non-notable names in their records. Good knockout percentage, so they got some pop. So again, this reminds me a little bit of Caleb Plant, who's a known name against McCumby, unknown. So again, we saw with Plant, it wasn't an easy fight. He got dropped. So that's the dangerous part of fighting somebody that's relatively unknown. They got nothing to lose. They don't have a lot of pressure. They're going in there pretty relaxed. They're there to show off and show people stuff that they haven't seen yet. So again, I expect something probably similar. Obviously, definitely have to favor Munguia. He's been in there with guys like Canelo. He's got a ton of experience, title holders, so he should win this fight. But after fighting Canelo, it's hard to get motivated. So I expect Munguia to start slow, and maybe this opponent of his can capitalize in moments. But I expect still Munguia. He should win very handedly.
Yeah, I think this might be a war, man. I hope Munguia can get him out of there, but sometimes you see guys fighting with emotion like Tim Bradley did against Provodnikov, and that doesn't serve him well. So, I hope Munguia can get the KO. Let's conclude this one in our predictions, Chris. I'm gonna make that official. Munguia KO. Not sure if you're going with decision, but I'm gonna go with Munguia KO, and then we can also do Joshua Dubois for our predictions. Try to get some more dubs on the board.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. Obviously, I'm gonna say Munguia wins this fight. Do I want to say knockout? I want to kind of center myself a little bit on that knockout, but I'm gonna say I'm taking a risk here, Gio. I'm taking a risk. Nah, I seen that guy get tagged, and I seen a little bit of the highlights. So I'm agree. I'm gonna say he knocks him out, but I will say I think Munguia is gonna get tagged more than usual. I think he's not going in there with the same level of motivation that he went in for a Canelo fight. So I think he's gonna see a little bit of adversity, but ultimately I say Munguia wins by knockout as well.
All right. We're going Munguia knockout. You see the rest of the card there. Alan Garcia, 14-0, fighting again. I believe this is his 5th fight of the year. if I'm not mistaken. Shout out to our boy Alan, aka Kid, Kansas, 14-0, 11 KOs, 21 years old. He has about 3 fights with Top Rank, I believe, 3 or 4. Or actually, I think all his fights this year might have been with Top Rank. But yeah, he's looking good. He's fighting a guy, 15 wins, 13 Ls. Oh, man. Yeah, expect a KO. Kid Kansas, better get that KO. Emiliano Vargas is also under El General, son of Fernando Vargas, 11-0, going up against Larry Friars, 13-6. Emiliano Vargas developing well, 11-0, 9 KOs, 20 years old. Richard Torres Jr. as well. Heavyweight action, I believe this one was upgraded to the co-main. 10-0, Richard Torres Jr. going up against Joey Daweko. Never heard of him. 28-11. And of course, Jaime Munguia, Eric Bazinyan. Main event from Glendale, Arizona, ESPN.
Nice. Yeah, some good names, Gio. Top Rank always down there building those names like Alan, like General. So they always pick those kinds of names to be attached to some of these main eventers. They get motivation from that. They see themselves one day headlining those events. So it's that's something that a staple of Top Rank. They always mix it up with up and comer.
All right, man. Let's go ahead and go to Anthony Joshua. So that Munguia fight is on Friday. Saturday morning for us here on the West Coast. We'll get this fight. Wembley Stadium. Man, it sounds like they're selling a crazy amount of tickets. I heard a 90,000 ticket number. I don't know if they're going to sell that much, but I read something that they asked for an extension to open up the rest of the stadium because they were selling so many tickets. Obviously, Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, Turkey promoting this as well. So, yeah, this is going to be big right here. Daniel Dubois, 21-2. 20 wins in those 20 knockouts in those 21 wins. 27 years old. He's from Greenwich, London. Philip Hergovich was his last opponent. TKO'd him. TKO'd Gerald Miller. And then before that, he had that, I guess, kind of controversial loss to Usyk last summer in 2023. So, I think Dubois has been looking good. He lost, he got stopped by Joe Joyce in 2020. Then same KO loss against Usyk in 2023. But I like Dubois, man. He's a strong guy, 6'5". Obviously a ton of power, as I said, 20 KOs and 21 wins. And you already know what Joshua does, man. 34 years old, listed as 6'6". 28-3, 25 KOs. Someone's getting knocked out, Chris. Somebody's getting knocked out. Of course, Joshua has those 2 losses to Usyk, one in 2021, one in 2022, and the Andy Reese loss in 2019. Avenged that one that same year. But yeah, look at what Joshua has done since that 2022 loss to Usyk. Jermaine Franklin Jr. won by decision, KO'd Robert Helenius, KO'd Otto Wallin, KO'd Francis Ngannou, and now fighting Daniel Dubois in a real challenge, Chris. This is a good fight right here.
Oh yeah, man! This is probably the fight that I'm most excited. This coming week, obviously, we know Anthony Joshua, former world heavyweight champion, top 3-4 titles in the game in his prime. Resurgence since those low losses that you mentioned. It's almost like he's found himself once again. Having a good moment. You also mentioned Daniel Dubois. He's had probably the best momentum of these two. You mentioned the fight with Usyk with our guy Usyk. Very, very controversial fight. A lot of people thought he should have been the world heavyweight champion, and I'm sure he believes that too. He feels like that is something that's been stolen from him, but he's got a chance to redeem himself against another former heavyweight champion, and now Anthony Joshua. Man, I'm super excited about this one. The build-up has been crazy. I love Daniel Dubois' trash talking. Anthony Joshua is like the classic guy, but hates being disrespected. So, man, this is gonna be a war, in my opinion. I think I'm gonna predict my prediction, Gio.
Go for it.
Let me put that in this time first. Let me beat you to the punch. I think Joshua is the favorite, but I'm gonna smell an upset in this one, and I could be wrong. Like you said, these two guys, they both have enough power to knock each other out. You know, twice on Saturday and 3 times on Sunday. So I'm taking a little risk here, but I'm gonna say upset by Daniel Dubois. I just think he's got a little bit more dog in him. And you know, even in those two losses, it's not the same type of losses that Anthony Joshua, you know, took. So I believe that at 34 and Daniel Dubois at 26, 27, I think he might catch him. And I saw an upset. I could be wrong, but I'm gonna say Daniel Dubois. I'm gonna say by knockout. I'm risking it all, Gio, on this one. So Daniel Dubois by knockout.
Damn. Hey, it's possible. But come on, you bloke. I got AJ by KO. I just think he's a little quicker than Dubois. You said you beat me to the punch. Well, I think AJ will beat Daniel Dubois to the punch, and I think he's gonna knock him out. Like I said, I think he's a little quicker, a little longer. No Diddy. Maybe just a little more sharp, and we've seen Dubois go down several times. Obviously, Joshua as well, but I think if he gets hit, he's not getting up.
Yeah, I agree. I think that straight right down the pipe is Anthony Joshua's go-to. I just feel Dan Dubois has a little bit more dog in him. When things get tough, I just feel like Anthony Joshua will fold before Dan Dubois. So if Dubois can keep himself from making mistakes, if he can weather some storms, if he get Anthony Joshua in some, you know, in some hard moments, I think he could get him out. Again, I could be wrong. I could be looking at you, congratulating you come next week as we see a highlight of Dan Dubois getting folded. But hopefully that's not the case, man. I'm hoping Dan Dubois has a lot in the tank after that Usyk partial robbery. So I'm hoping he's able to muster something. So I gotta make some distance, Joe. I got to make some distance between you and our predictions, man.
All right, I'm not mad at it. Not mad at it. I think this is a really good fight. I think it's kind of been under the radar at the moment. Obviously, Canelo weekend, Canelo month. You know, of course, people were gonna sleep on it, but yeah, I think this is a very good fight. $20, you know, for those who are looking to buy the pay-per-view. Not much on the undercard. I checked out the undercard, not much on there. I think the more, I guess, recognizable name would be Josh Warrington is on this. Josh Kelly is on there. Joshua Boatsi is on there, but yeah, nothing too crazy on that undercard. All eyes on the main event, and we're split here. This is gonna be interesting. Chris got Dubois by KO. I got AJ by KO. Big Bro has AJ by KO. He says within 6 or 7. Should be interesting.
Let me just say, Anthony Joshua is a smarter fighter. He's the more sound boxer. If he sticks to a boxing plan, you guys should both be right. But you know, Usyk was also the smarter boxer, and he ultimately got the W. I just think that Dubois might just weather him a little bit more. We've seen Joshua get into trouble in previous fights, and when it gets messy, he tends to crumble. So that's what I'm banking on, man. Again, I'm taking a risk right here, and we'll see how that plays out, man. I'm rolling the dice, Gio.
It's a good risk. I'm not mad at it, man. It's a good one. It's very possible. Heavyweight division. These guys both got power. They have a combined, 45 KOs, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, that's real good, man. 45 KOs and 49 wins. So, somebody's getting hurt. That's all I know. Somebody getting hurt.
I'm hoping Joshua's like been there, done that, been the champion. I've been in this game X amount of years. I'm baking that the younger Dubois is just gonna pick him at the right time, man. Let's go, man. Let's go, Daniel. Let's go.
Yeah, I believe this is for the title too, IBF. Yeah. They stripped Usyk, as I said earlier. IBF stripped Canelo, stripped Usyk too. Man, those guys are on something. Those guys are on something, man. But yeah, I think that's all I got, man. I think that's all I got. Almost 2 hours in. Thank you guys for being with us. Thank you guys for keeping that chat lit. Shout out to those of you who will be watching this replay. But yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday, same time, same place. We got Munguia, we got AJ, so we'll have a lot to unpack. And then October, man, October is gonna be something too.
Yeah, again, guys, thank you guys for sticking with us 2 whole hours. If you guys are gonna be seeing this on the radio on your way to work, man, just appreciate you guys' support and love for the game. Once again, shout out to King Canelo, still the king, still number one, still selling out, still making Noche at the Sphere obsolete, even though it looked cool on the Sphere. But hey, there's only one face of boxing. Shout out to all the people that went to the Sphere, man. Y'all a bunch of haters. Straight up.
Big Bro says $20, not bad. On that topic, did you hear that Turkey's buying Ring magazine?
Yeah, I saw that. That's actually cool.
I
might write some stories and send it their way. They might actually put it up. So we'll see how that goes. But it's always good when money's pumped back into actual, boxing journalism. So that's dope to hear.
And they're saying that's why Oscar is dancing, because obviously he was the owner of Ring. But we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. Last thing here is Canelo weekend, Mexican Independence Day weekend. What that means, it always reminds me that it's one more year of the podcast, Chris. I believe this channel was created on September 19 or 18, something like that. About 6 years ago, 2018. So the first fight we covered was Canelo Triple G2. So we're turning 6. We're turning 6.
Yeah, if you guys go back and watch some of those podcasts that we did in the studio, hey, we make up some good points, man. But yeah, man, 6 years?
6 years.
We're strong, man. Again, September special, man. September special. So crazy that, like you said, Joe, crazy to say that we were calling that Triple G and Canelo fight, and Canelo's still going strong, man. Crazy, man. That's a goat right there. We'll see how long he keeps it moving.
Yeah. Shout out to Gonello for keeping 90% of YouTube channels alive, man. We appreciate you. You see it there, September 21 of 2018. So yeah, shout out to all 8K of you who subscribe. 5 million views, man.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, shout out to you guys, man. That's dope.
It was what I think we had like 800 subscribers when we had Mosley, and he was talking about Canelo, and they'll be doing it. I've always said, like, in past the 30s, especially the 33s, that's where like fighters start to kind of dwindle a little bit. I remember Julio Cesar Chavez starting to lose at 33, Oscarin de la Hoya at 33, 34. Just when you have that money, you get comfortable, and then the up and coming guys, start hitting their peak. That's a tough time, but Canelo's still going strong, and even said it, man. What are they gonna say now? I fought, bigger guys. I fought younger guys. What are they gonna say next, man? So, yeah, shout out to Canelo, man. Keeping it moving, man.
Yep, and it was all a dream, Chris. It was all a dream. And like Terrence Crawford said, everything's gonna be all right. And that's all we got, man.
So Kendrick,
they not like us.
Hey,
let's go, you blokes.
Let's go. Let's go, Dubois. Let's go, Dave.
Let's go, mates. 90,000 at the Wembley. Insane.
Come on, Daniel. I need that W. Vámonos.
Earn with Hearn. Let's go, mate.
Hola amigos, soy Juan Francisco AtR. Quiero mandar un saludo para mis amigos de Contra las Cuerdas. Que se les muchas ganas. Un abrazo, muchas bendiciones.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. You know what mine is? Let's box bitches. It's almost fight night.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you for the support. Keep doing your thing. You're doing a great job. So thank you and best wishes.
Against the Ropes. Huge shout out to Against the Ropes. Against the Ropes.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you guys for the interview and hope to see you very soon.
Against the Ropes, always doing the right thing.
Shout out to Against the Ropes, man. I appreciate you guys for having me, taking the time out y'all day.
Against the Ropes, #1.
Freddie Roach.
Thank